On October 31st, 1922, the National Fascist Party came into power in Italy under the dictator Benito Mussolini. Hitler was inspired by Mussolini and the Italian fascists, and he began to adopt elements of their form of fascism for the Nazi Party. Hitler borrowed their use of the straight-armed salute as the Nazi salute. When the fascists took control of Italy through their coup d'etat called the March on Rome, Hitler began planning his own coup d'etat less than a month later. By November 1923, Hitler had decided that the time was right for an attempt to overthrow the Weimar Republic and seize power in Munich. On the night of November 8th, 1923, the Nazis used a patriotic rally in a Munich beer hall to launch an attempted putsch or coup d'etat. This so-called beer hall putsch failed within one day when German military commanders refused to support it. Hitler and a number of his supporters were arrested and tried for treason in March 1924. Hitler and some of his close associates were convicted, but given very lenient prison sentences. While he was in Landsberg prison, Hitler wrote his political manifesto called Mein Kampf, or My Struggle. The Nazi Party was officially banned in Germany on November 9, 1923. However, it continued to operate under the name the German Party, or Deutsche Partei, or DP. And again, there's the cover of a modern printing of Mein Kampf. Hitler was released from Landsberg prison on December 20th, 1924. On February 16th, 1925, Hitler convinced German authorities to lift the ban on the Nazi Party, and it was formally refounded on February 26, 1925, with Hitler as its undisputed leader. It was at this time that Hitler began referring to himself as Der Führer, the leader. Nuremberg, Germany, had remained a Nazi Party stronghold during this time, so Hitler decided to hold the first Nuremberg rally there in 1927. The Nuremberg rallies soon became massive displays of Nazi paramilitary power and attracted many recruits to the party. By 1929, the NSDAP had 130,000 members, and I mean they gathered bigger than any modern football game in force, especially the members of the SA or Sturmabteilung. The Blutfahne, or blood flag, was the flag that was carried, and here we're going to start seeing some of the occult inspired rituals, the religious rituals and regalia of the Third Reich. The blood flag was the flag that was carried during the failed November beer hall putsch of 1923, during which it became soaked in the blood of a fallen member of the Sturmabteilung. When the Munich police fired on the Nazis, the flag bearer Heinrich Traumbauer was hit and dropped the banner. He dropped the flag. Andreas Bauer-Eidel, a member of the SA who was marching alongside the flag, was killed and fell onto the flag, staining it with his blood. Hence it became known as the blood flag. The blood flag subsequently became one of the most revered objects. It was a revered religious relic of the Nazi Party and an object of pseudo-religious ritual. All new Nazi flags needed to be, quote, consecrated in a ritualized manner by it being physically touched to the original blood flag. So here you see that ceremony being performed, and then Hitler touching the new banner that had been created for the SA to the original blood flag. They incorporated all kinds of pseudo-religious rituals into all of their proceedings. And then it got really intense with the coming of the SS. Then it really became an occult order. And the whole Nazi regime was really led by an inner occult order, as we're going to get to. During the Great Depression in the early 1930s, the German economy was beset with mass unemployment and widespread business failures. The Nazis blamed the crisis on Jewish financiers and the Bolsheviks, a position which resonated with wide sections of the German electorate. In the 1930 elections, the Nazis won 18% of the votes and became the second largest party in the Reichstag, or German parliament. By 1932, the Sturmabteilung had grown to 400,000 members. That's bigger than almost every country's army. And its street battles with other political paramilitaries reduced some German cities to combat zones. So before they even seized, actual political power through seizing the German government, their strong arm paramilitary was already killing people in the streets of Germany in a warfare-like fashion. And, this is where the United States is going to be headed with the political polarization that exists here. Part of Hitler's appeal to a frightened and demoralized middle class was a promise to restore law and order. How many times do politicians promise that? And again, because of what his own people were doing. He created the problem, and then he tells people, you got to give me power so I can restore law and order. It's one of the most ancient games in the book, In the July 1932 Reichstag election, the Nazis won 37% of the vote and became the largest party in the German parliament by a wide margin. So you're seeing them become more and more and more popular with the German people. The German people voted for Hitler primarily because of his promises to revive the economy, restore German greatness, and save Germany from communism. Hitler was, again, two masks of the same face playing off against each other just for complete control. They'll continue to do this for as long as the tactic works. They don't need to change the tactic because it works. Until the public wakes up to it, that it's all nonsense, and stops supporting either side, this tactic will continue to work flawlessly. Hitler was appointed as Chancellor of Germany on January 30th, 1933. On February 27th, a fire broke out in the German parliamentary building, the Reichstag, widely recognized as a false flag operation. This fire gave Hitler a pretext for suppressing his political opponents. And again, this is the same tactic. You create the problem, you blame it on your political opponents, and then you have the justification to go and seize more power, implement more control, hurt more people, etc. False flags have also constantly worked throughout the ages because the public is not psychologically sophisticated enough en masse to understand how this tactic works. So clearly the Nazis started this fire and said, oh, our political opponents did it, we got to go and hunt them all down and kill them. The Reichstag fire decree was issued the following day, which suspended most civil liberties within Germany because of this threat. Sound familiar after 9/11? The NSDAP won the parliamentary election of March 5th with 44% of the votes. You see, they're going up and up and up in popularity. On March 23rd, the German parliament passed the Enabling Act, which gave the cabinet the right to enact laws without the consent of the parliament. In effect, the Enabling Act gave Hitler dictatorial powers because he was the head of the Nazi Party. Now possessing virtually absolute power, the Nazis abolished all labor unions, banned all other political parties, and began imprisoning their political opponents, first at improvised camps, like at Dachau, then in full concentration camps. The law against the formation of political parties of July 14th